Here's something no one tells you about being underestimated. It's not an insult. It's an invitation. Most people here, they don't believe in you and feel a sting, a tightness in their chest, a need to prove something right now. And that reaction, that desperate urge to correct someone's perception of you, is exactly what keeps you small. Let me explain. Think about the last time someone overlooked you. Maybe it was subtle, a meeting where your idea got ignored, then repeated by someone else 5 minutes later, a conversation where someone spoke over you like your voice didn't carry weight, a moment where you could feel it, that quiet dismissal hiding behind their smile. You noticed. You always notice. But here's what most people get wrong. They think the goal is to make people see them differently, to argue their value, to perform louder, to force respect into the room. That's not power. That's an audition, and no one who auditions for respect ever actually earns it. Take this list of 7 laws that would help guide you when you're in such situation. Law 1. Let the underestimation stay. This sounds counterintuitive, almost painful, but psychologically, it's one of the most strategic positions you can occupy. When people underestimate you, they stop watching. They stop competing. They stop guarding themselves against you. Robert Greene wrote about this in the 48 Laws of Power. The idea that appearing less threatening than you are gives you room to operate without resistance. Most people can't tolerate being seen as less. Their ego won't allow it. So they overcorrect, they flash credentials, they name drop, they overexplain their worth. And in doing so, they hand every ounce of leverage to the room. But you, if you can sit inside that discomfort, if you can let someone believe you're ordinary while quietly becoming undeniable, you've already won a game they don't even know is being played. Law 2. Build in silence. Let the results scream. There's a yes. There's a specific kind of regret that hits people hardest. It's not when you prove them wrong with words. It's when reality does it for you. You've seen this happen. Someone who was dismissed, overlooked, maybe even laughed at. And then one day, without warning, they show up different, not louder, not desperate, just undeniable. New level, new position, new energy entirely. And everyone around them suddenly has to reconcile the person they dismissed with the person standing in front of them now. That moment, that's not revenge. That's architecture. You don't build that by posting motivational quotes. You build it by doing the work no one sees, by showing up at 5 a.m. when nobody's clapping, by reading the books, taking the courses, refining the craft, while everyone else refreshes their feed waiting for validation. Silence isn't weakness. Silence is construction. Before we go any further, subscribe now so you never miss these truths. Law 3. Weaponize their comfort. Here's a dark truth most people won't say out loud. When someone underestimates you, they get comfortable. And comfort makes people dangerously careless. They stop preparing for you. They stop seeing you as a variable. They assume the hierarchy is permanent. This is where it gets strategic. While they're relaxed, you're evolving. While they're coasting on the assumption that they're ahead, you're closing a gap they don't even know exists. And by the time they finally realize you've moved, it's already too late. The distance is gone. Psychologist Carol Dweck's research on fixed versus growth mindsets reveals something powerful here. People who underestimate others almost always operate from a fixed lens. They believe talent and capability are static. So when you shatter that assumption, not with words, but with visible, undeniable transformation, it doesn't just surprise them. It destabilizes their entire framework. That's not just regret. That's a psychological recalibration they never signed up for. Law 4. Never announce the shift. Embody it. This is where most people fail. They feel themselves growing and they can't resist telling people about it. They want credit before the work is finished. They want acknowledgement mid-process. Don't. The moment you announce your evolution, you invite scrutiny. You invite doubt. You invite people to measure you against a standard you haven't fully reached yet. And if you fall short, even slightly, they'll use it to confirm the original story they already told themselves about you. Let the shift speak for itself. Let them feel the difference before they can understand it. Walk into the room and let the energy do the talking. When your posture, your language, your presence, your results all say the same thing, no announcement is needed. People don't regret underestimating someone who told them to watch. They regret underestimating someone who never needed them to. Here's the part no one's ready for. The deepest regret doesn't come from watching you succeed. It comes from realizing they had access to you and didn't value it. That they were in the room with someone extraordinary and treated them like background noise. That realization doesn't hit immediately. It hits at 2 a.m. on a random Tuesday when they see your name somewhere they didn't expect, when someone else mentions you with a respect they never offered, when the world reflects back a version of you they refuse to see. And by then, you're already gone. Not with bitterness, not with spite, just forward. That's the real power of being underestimated. It's not about making people regret it. It's about becoming someone who doesn't need them to, but they will anyway. And here's the strange part. The regret usually arrives late. It shows up after they've already labeled you, after they've already decided you were harmless. That delay matters, because people don't regret underestimating you when you are begging to be seen. They regret it when the evidence becomes too loud to dismiss. The first trap is thinking power looks like a reaction. It doesn't. Someone cuts you off in a meeting. Someone laughs a little too quickly at your idea. Someone gives you that look. The one that says, "I'm not taking you seriously yet." Your body wants to answer immediately. Your ego wants to correct the room. That instinct feels strong, but it's usually weak. Weak people need the moment to go their way. Powerful people know how to survive the moment and win the outcome. I used to think being fast made me look confident. It didn't. It made me predictable. And predictability is what people lean on when they underestimate you. Law 5. Never rush the proof. Proof given too early gets ignored. Proof delivered too late becomes unforgettable. That's why the calm person often has the advantage. Not the loud one. Not the defensive one. The calm one. The person who hears the dismissive comment at dinner, smiles, and keeps talking. The person who gets overlooked in a group chat, then quietly becomes the one everyone has to call when the plan falls apart. The person who says less in the room and more through results later. People expect emotional explosions. They don't expect delayed precision. And that delay is what makes them uneasy. Because now they can't categorize you. And when people can't categorize you, they start paying closer attention. Here's a reversal most people miss. You think underestimation is always about disrespect. Sometimes it's about access. The more available you are, the less valuable you feel. That sounds cold, but it's psychological reality. When you answer every text instantly, explain every choice, and make yourself constantly accessible, people stop sensing depth. They start sensing convenience, and convenience is never respected for long. This is why boundaries change perception faster than performance does. Not fake boundaries, real ones. The kind where you don't overextend just to stay visible. The kind where you don't rearrange your whole life to soothe somebody else's assumptions. The kind where your time starts to look like it belongs to someone who knows its value. That shift changes everything. Not because you became arrogant, because you became hard to misuse. Before we go any further, subscribe now so you never miss these truths. Law 6. Make your absence feel expensive, not dramatic, not spiteful, just costly. If you leave a team, the gap should be felt. If you stop carrying the conversation, the silence should be noticeable. If you stop over-functioning in relationships, people should realize how much you were holding together. This is one of the deepest forms of respect. When your presence improves the environment, your absence exposes the truth. and people remember the truth. Think about work. When you're the one fixing the sloppy details, people assume the system just works. Then you pull back. Suddenly the errors show up. Suddenly the tension rises. Suddenly everyone notices what your discipline was quietly covering. That is when underestimation turns into regret. Not because you announced anything, because reality did. The next trap is more dangerous. It's called trying to become louder instead of stronger. People underestimate you, so you post more. You try to become impossible to miss. But visibility is not influence. Attention is not respect, and noise is not authority. You can be the most seen person in the room and still be the least trusted. That's why the real move is always internal first. Sharpen the skill. Upgrade the discipline. Control the emotional leak. Because emotional leak is what gives people confidence to underestimate you in the first place. They see impatience. They see neediness. They see someone who can be pushed around by tone. They see someone who loses composure too fast. And once they see that, they stop adjusting for your strength. They adjust for your fragility. So here's the final law. Law 7. Become harder to read, not harder to understand. There's a difference. Hard to read means you don't broadcast every thought. You don't hand people your next move. You don't turn every goal into a social event. Hard to understand means you're inconsistent and confusing for no reason. That's not power. That's chaos. Power is controlled unpredictability. You stay steady under pressure. You speak when it matters. You move when the move counts. So when somebody assumes you're passive, they're wrong. When somebody assumes you're harmless, they're wrong. When somebody assumes you'll fold under pressure, they're wrong again. And the beauty of that pattern is that you don't need to announce the correction. They feel it. That's what unsettles them. Not your words, your timing. Real life reveals this everywhere. At a family gathering, somebody makes a joke at your expense. Old you would laugh too hard and try to keep the peace. New you lets the moment breathe. No panic. No overreaction. No desperate need to explain your worth to people who already decided not to see it. At work, someone speaks over you and claims the idea. Old you would rush to defend the idea. New you remembers something colder. The idea will either survive through execution or die through imitation. So you let them have the credit for the sentence and keep the leverage in the outcome. That's not passive. That's strategic restraint, and restraint has a way of making people nervous. Because most people use emotion as evidence of importance. You don't need to. Here's the darkest truth in this whole game. People don't just underestimate what they don't understand. They underestimate what makes them uncomfortable. Your discipline is uncomfortable. Your composure is uncomfortable. Your self-control is uncomfortable because it exposes their lack of it. That's why they project. That's why they minimize. That's why they try to keep you in a smaller version of yourself. It's not always hate. Sometimes it's just fear wearing a polite face. And when you understand that, you stop taking their doubt personally. You start treating it like weather, something to move through, not something to become. And that is the identity shift. You are not trying to prove you matter. You are becoming someone whose results make denial feel embarrassing. You are not chasing applause. You are building a presence that changes the temperature of the room. You are not trying to force regret. You are becoming the reason regret happens naturally. That's a different kind of power. Quieter, cleaner, harder to fake, because now your confidence is not a performance. It's a byproduct of evidence. Before we go any further, subscribe now so you never miss these truths. Stop trying to be understood by everyone who benefits from misunderstanding you. Stop volunteering your depth to people committed to staying shallow. Stop treating their doubt like a verdict. It was just a test of whether you would collapse, explain, or continue. Continue. That's the whole game. Continue working. Continue moving without announcing every step. Continue becoming the person they can't mentally shrink anymore, because the deepest regret you can create in someone is not making them feel bad for doubting you. It's making them realize, too late, that your silence was strength, your restraint was strategy, and your growth was happening the entire time they thought nothing was happening at all. That's when they finally understand, but by then you already do. And before you leave this space, sit with something for a moment. The world is filled with people who announce themselves before they arrive, who explain themselves before they're questioned, who defend themselves before they're attacked, and most of them are forgotten by tomorrow. But every once in a while, someone shows up differently, not louder, not sharper, just inevitable. The kind of person who doesn't chase rooms but changes them. The kind of person who doesn't argue with doubt but outlives it. The kind of person who treats silence not as emptiness but as architecture. And if you're still here, still watching, still processing, then maybe that person isn't someone you admire from a distance. Maybe that person is who you're quietly becoming, not because someone gave you permission, but because you stopped needing it. Remember this: history doesn't remember the loudest voice in the room. It remembers the one that didn't need to speak twice. Be that voice, not for applause, not even for proof, for yourself. Because in the end, the most powerful form of respect isn't given, it's observed. Quietly, reluctantly, and far too late to take back. Now move accordingly.